For all of the human history, our story has been one of pushing boundaries. We crossed oceans, scaled mountains, and finally, we reached for the stars. We've sent our robotic eyes to every planet in our solar system and peered deep into the past, capturing the faint glow of the universe's infancy. We've mapped the cosmic web, a sprawling architecture of galaxies so vast it defies imagination. We have, in a very real sense, been charting the room we were born in. We know its dimensions. We know its furniture. We've even deduced its history, tracing it all back to a single monumental event, the Big Bang. All of this, is our observable universe. A cosmic horizon, 93 billion light years across. It contains everything we can possibly see, everything we can ever know. 2 trillion galaxies. More stars than there are grains of sand on every beach on Earth. It is the entirety of our reality. But I have to ask you a question that has haunted me since I was a child, staring up at a dark country sky. What lies outside? It's a simple question, a child's question, but it is, perhaps, the most profound and terrifying question we can ask. Because the moment you seriously contemplate it, you realize that everything we think we know about reality is incomplete. For decades, our most powerful telescopes have been picking up inconsistencies, anomalies in the ancient light of the cosmos, structures that are too large to exist, forces that shouldn't be there, galaxies moving as if pulled by something beyond our sight. The official explanations are complex statistical flukes, unknown physics, foreground contamination. We have a name for everything. But what if we've been naming our ignorance? What if these aren't mere glitches in our data? What if they are shadows cast by something outside? There is a small and often ridiculed group of physicists and cosmologists who dare to take these shadows seriously. They work on the fringes of science, their papers often rejected, their theories labeled as heresy. They are the cartographers of the impossible, trying to map what, by all definitions, cannot be mapped. I've spent the last 2 years speaking with them, and what they've told me changes everything. This isn't just a story about space. It's a story about the very nature of existence. And it begins not at the edge of the universe, but with the first and only picture we have of its birth. This is the cosmic microwave background, the afterglow of the Big Bang, a baby picture of the universe, taken when it was a mere 380,000 years old. For cosmologists, this is the Holy Grail. It confirms the Big Bang theory and encodes the seeds of all the structure we see today. But if you look closely, there are imperfections. This, for example, is the cold spot, a region of space so inexplicably cold that it has baffled scientists for years. The mainstream theory is that it's a giant supervoida cosmic desert that the light from the CMB passed through, losing energy. But Dr. Eris Thorne, a theoretical cosmologist at the Institute for Advanced Study, has a different, more radical idea, the supervoid explanation. It's elegant, but the numbers don't add up. It would have to be a void of such immense, such impossible proportions, that it challenges our understanding of structure, formation itself. It's like finding a single, perfect square mile of absolute vacuum in the middle of a bustling city. It shouldn't be there. Leans forward, lowering her voice. There is a speculative proposition. What if the cold spot isn't a feature of our universe, but a bruise on it? A cosmic scar left by a collision with another universe in the vast, greater multiverse. A bruise, a scar from a contact with another reality. It's a concept that stretches the mind to its breaking point. But the cold spot isn't the only anomaly. Then there's this what some have dramatically called the axis of evil. It's a strange and unsettling alignment of hot and cold spots across the cosmos. According to our fundamental principles, the universe should have no preferred direction. It should look the same in all directions, but it doesn't. It has a tilt, a fundamental asymmetry. I took this data to Dr. Kenji Tanaka, a specialist in cosmic inflation at CERN. The axis of evil is a headache, a beautiful, fascinating headache. We've tried to explain it away as a statistical fluke or an artifact of our own motion through space. But the signal persists. It's as if the entire universe is leaning, but leaning against what? What external framework could possibly impart a direction? An external framework. The idea is staggering. It implies that our universe isn't just floating in nothingness. It's embedded in something else. A larger structure that can exert an influence. A canvas upon which our bubble is painted. But if our universe is a bubble in a wider cosmic ocean, what is the nature of that ocean? And what else is swimming in it? The clues might not just be in the ancient light of the Big Bang. They might be in the very matter that makes us up. Everything you see, everything you are, is made of atoms. And at the heart of every atom is a nucleus, made of protons and neutrons. For decades, we believed the proton was stable, eternal, but some theories suggest otherwise. Certain grand unified theories predict that protons have a finite, though unimaginably long, lifespan. They can decay. We've built enormous detectors, like Super Kamiokande in Japan, deep underground to shield them from cosmic rays, to look for this decay. We haven't found it yet, but the search continues. Why does this matter? Because the potential instability of matter itself hints at physics beyond our standard model. It hints at forces and realms operating on energy scales and time frames we can scarcely comprehend. There is the mystery of mirror matter. The laws of physics, as we know them, are almost perfectly symmetrical. So perfect that many theorists believe there must be a hidden mirror sector of reality, a whole universe of particles identical to ours, but invisible to us, interacting with our world only through gravity. Dr. Ilara Vance is one of the leading proponents of this idea. Think of it as a cosmic reflection. For every electron you have, there could be a mirror electron. For every quark, a mirror quark. They form mirror atoms, mirror molecules, mirror planets, even mirror life. They are right here, all around us, passing through us, but we are blind to them. Gravity, mirror matter, would have mass. It would clump around galaxies, forming vast, invisible halos. In fact, it could be the very dark matter we've been searching for all along. The missing 85% of the universe's mass. It might not be some exotic, unknown particle. It might just be the ghost of another reality, intertwined with our own. The idea is breathtaking. The outside we are searching for might not be a distant place. It might be right here, superimposed on our own world. A phantom universe existing in the same space. separated by a fundamental law of NAND-interaction. We are not alone in the universe. We are alone in our perception of it. But the most compelling evidence for an outside comes from the largest structures in the cosmos and the way they move. For years, astronomers have tracked the motion of galaxy clusters. They move due to the expansion of the universe, and they tug on each other through gravity. But in the early 2000s, data from the Wilkinson Microwave Anisotropy probe revealed something that should not be. Hundreds of clusters were all moving in the same direction, a coherent, steady flow towards one particular point on the cosmic horizon. They called it the dark flow. When we first saw it, we assumed it was an error. We checked and rechecked the data. We looked for systematic effects. The signal was real. These clusters are moving at speeds of over 1 million miles per hour towards something beyond our cosmic horizon. A gravitational pull so immense it can tug on entire galaxy clusters, but whose source we cannot see. What could possibly have that much gravity? A structure so colossal it makes superclusters look tiny. There is nothing in our observable universe that fits the description. Nothing, precisely, which leaves only one unsettling conclusion. The source of the dark flow is not in our universe. It is an external mass, something on the outside, pulling us. We are not just a bubble in a cosmic ocean. We are a bubble in a current, drifting towards something we cannot see, pulled by a force whose origin lies outside of reality as we define it. The cold spot, the axis of evil, mirror matter, the dark flow. Individually, they are curiosities, anomalies to be explained away. But together, they form a pattern, a whisper from the void. They tell us that our universe is not a closed, self-contained system. It is porous. It has seams, and through those seams, the light and gravity of other realities, other dimensions, perhaps other creations, are leaking in. We have spent centuries building a map of our cosmic home, but now we are finding that the map has edges. And on the other side of those edges, the blank spaces aren't empty. They are filled with words we have not yet learned to read. We started this journey with a simple question: what lies outside? We now have hints, whispers, shadows on the cave wall. We have the chilling possibility that we are not the only universe, that we are part of a vaster, more complex, and potentially infinite reality. But this leads me to an even more disturbing question. If our universe is just one bubble in a grand cosmic foam, what created the foam? That question has haunted me since my conversations with the pioneers on the edge of cosmology. We've found the cracks in reality, the cold spot, the dark flow, the ghostly pull of mirror matter. We have evidence that our universe is not alone. But evidence of a multiverse is one thing. Understanding its origin, that is an entirely different frontier. It's a frontier that forces us to confront the very first moment of everything, the Big Bang. For decades, it was our ultimate answer, the beginning. But what if the Big Bang wasn't the beginning? What if it was merely a transition, a single note in a cosmic symphony that started long before? To find the architect of the multiverse, we must look closer at the one blueprint we have, the cosmic microwave background. We've already seen its anomalies. But what if, hidden in its random-looking noise, there is a signature, a deliberate structure, a fingerprint of the forces that birthed our bubble universe, and potentially countless others. There is a theory, so radical it exists at the very limits of theoretical physics. It suggests that the fundamental laws of our universe, the speed of light, the strength of gravity, the mass of an electron, are not fundamental at all. They are frozen accidents, the cosmic equivalent of a random roll of the dice. And according to this theory, the dice were rolled by a field, a single, all-pervasive entity that existed before time, before space, before everything we know. They call it the inflated field. This is where our journey truly begins, not with a bang, but with a field. And the discovery of its existence came from a paradox so profound it threatened to unravel our entire understanding of the cosmos. By the late 1970s, the Big Bang theory was king, but it had three very deep wounds. First, the horizon problem. Look at the CMB in opposite directions in the sky. Those two regions have the same temperature to 1 part in 100,000, but in the standard Big Bang, they were never close enough to exchange heat and equalize. It's like walking into a room and finding 2 cups of coffee on opposite sides at the exact same temperature without anyone ever moving them. How? Second, the flatness problem. Our universe is almost perfectly geometrically flat, not curved positively like a ball or negatively like a saddle. For that to be true, the density of the universe at 1 second after the Big Bang had to be fine-tuned to an accuracy of 1 part in 10, 15, an impossibly perfect balance. And third, the magnetic monopole problem. Grand unified theories predicted that the early universe should have been flooded with strange, heavy particles called magnetic monopoles. We've never found a single one. The theory was broken. It needed a revolution. We were stuck. The Big Bang was beautiful, but it was messy. It left too many loose ends. Then, a young physicist named Alan Guth proposed something heretical. What if, in the first fleeting fraction of a second, the universe didn't just expand, it exploded? Asterisk, not with matter, but with space itself. A period of hyper-expansion that smoothed everything out. This was cosmic inflation. The idea that for a sliver of time, y-36 to y-32 seconds after the beginning, the universe doubled in size every 10 to 38 seconds. It underwent perhaps 100 doublings, a volume smaller than a proton inflated to the size of a grapefruit. And in that violent, exponential stretching, all 3 problems were solved. The horizon problem, solved. Those 2 distant regions of the CMB were once neighbors, connected before inflation blew them apart. The flatness problem, solved. Inflation stretched the fabric of space so much that any initial curvature was flattened out, like blowing up a tiny, wrinkled balloon to the size of the Earth. The monopole problem, solved. Any monopoles were simply diluted into irrelevance. Inflation was but it came with a breathtaking and unintended consequence. Smiling wistfully, we thought we were fixing the Big Bang. We didn't realize we were opening a door to something infinitely larger. You see, the engine of inflation, this inflated field, it couldn't just turn off perfectly everywhere at once. Quantum mechanics forbids such perfection. Quantum mechanics, the science of the very small, where nothing is certain and tiny fluctuations are the rule. And in the furious energy of the inflating universe, the inflating field was subject to these quantum jitters. tiny, random fluctuations in the field's value were stretched from the quantum realm to cosmic size. These ripples in space-time became the seeds for all future structure, the slight overdensities that would, billions of years later, collapse under gravity to form galaxies, stars, and planets. The entire cosmic web is a magnified quantum fossil, but that's not the stunning part. The stunning part is what happens when inflation ends. Inflation is a runaway process. When it stops in one region, that region becomes a bubble universe, like ours, filled with hot matter and radiation. But the inflattened field remains high in energy in other regions, continuing to inflate. So, the larger meta-universe is perpetually inflating, constantly giving birth to new bubble universes. An eternal, self-replicating multiverse. Let that sink in. Our entire cosmos, with its 2 trillion galaxies, is just one bubble in an infinite, ever-growing froth of universes. The inflattened field is the architect, and it is still building. This is the first and most scientifically robust answer to the question, what created the foam? The foam is a natural, inevitable consequence of the laws of physics as we understand them, a perpetual genesis machine. But if our universe is just one bubble among infinite bubbles, what are the others like? The concept of the inflationary multiverse leads to a staggering possibility. The laws of physics may not be universal. In each bubble, when the inflattened field collapses, it can settle into a different lowest energy state, a different valley on the cosmic landscape, and each valley has different rules. Think of the fundamental constants as dials on a cosmic control board: the speed of light, the gravitational constant, the strength of the nuclear forces. In our universe, these dials are set to very specific values that allow for atoms, chemistry, stars, and life. But in the multiverse, every possible setting exists somewhere. Easily, there could be universes where gravity is so strong that they collapse into a big crunch in microseconds. Universes where the electromagnetic force is too weak to form atoms, so no chemistry ever happens, just a sterile sea of subatomic particles. Universes with 4 dimensions of space where our intuitive geometry falls apart, or universes where the nuclear forces are slightly different, and carbon, the foundation of life as we know it, never forms. This is the theory of the anthropic multiverse. The reason our universe seems so finely tuned for life isn't because a creator tuned it. It's because we are here to observe it. In the infinite variety of the multiverse, a tiny fraction of bubbles will, by pure chance, have the right conditions. We live in one of them because we couldn't exist in the others. It's a Copernican revolution on the grandest scale. We are not at the center of the universe. Our universe is not special. It's just viable. But this idea of a cosmic landscape of possible physics finds its most elaborate expression in a theory that aims to be the theory of everything: string theory. String theory proposes that the fundamental constituents of reality are not point-like particles, but unimaginably tiny, vibrating loops of energy. An electron is a string vibrating one way. A quark is a string vibrating another. And the mathematics of string theory require more than the 3 spatial dimensions we know. They require extra dimensions, tiny, curled-up dimensions at every point in space. The shape of these extra dimensions, their topology determines the laws of physics in that universe. It sets the values of those cosmic dials, and the number of possible, stable shapes for these dimensions is vast. Estimates put it at 10,500. That's a 1, followed by 500 zeros. A number so large it exceeds the number of atoms in the observable universe. This is the string theory landscape, a vast, multi-dimensional terrain of possible universes, each with its own unique set of physical laws. Our universe, in this picture, is just one valley in this incomprehensibly vast landscape. The inflattened field is the mechanism that randomly drops bubbles into these valleys, and we ended up in one that allows for our existence. The architecture is becoming clear, but it raises a terrifying new question. If the multiverse is a chaotic, random process, birthing universes with all possible laws, is there any order to the foam, or is it just chaos? The answer may lie not in the birth of universes, but in their death, and in a signal we have only recently learned to read. In 2015, humanity unlocked a new sense. For the first time, we detected gravitational waves ripples in the fabric of space-time itself, predicted by Einstein a century earlier. They came from the collision of two black holes over 1 billion light-years away. This was more than just confirming a theory. It was opening a new window on the cosmos, a window that could potentially see beyond. Light electromagnetic radiation can be blocked, absorbed, scattered. It only tells us part of the story. But gravitational waves, they pass through everything. They are a pristine messenger from the most violent events in the universe, and we are just beginning to learn their language. As our gravitational wave detectors become more sensitive, we are listening to the chorus of the cosmos. The mergers of black holes and neutron stars create a specific chirp in space-time. But some theorists believe there could be other signals, fainter, older, more primordial. One of the holy grails of cosmology is to detect the gravitational waves from inflation itself. The violent, exponential expansion should have sent a storm of gravitational waves rippling through the newborn universe. If we can detect their imprint, it would be the most direct evidence for inflation we could ever hope for. But there is another, more speculative possibility. Leaning in, her voice dropping, if our universe collided with another bubble universe in the past. Such a cosmic car crash would have released an unimaginable amount of energy. It would have sent a shockwave through space-time, a very specific, very powerful gravitational wave signal, a signature of inter-universal contact. We are now, for the first time, building instruments sensitive enough to potentially listen for the echoes of such an event. We are searching for the gravitational scars of a collision with another reality. But collisions imply proximity, and that leads to the most unsettling prediction of the bubble universe. Theory: the Big Bang might not have been the only one in our past. We have traced the origin of the foam to the inflattened field and the string theory landscape. We have found ways to potentially listen for our cosmic neighbors. But this only explains the mechanism of creation. It doesn't explain the rules. Why do we have quantum mechanics? Why does reality behave in such a counterintuitive, probabilistic way at its most fundamental level? To answer that, we must venture into the most mind-bending territory yet. We must ask if the universe is not just a place, but a process. And to do that, we must return to the beginning and look at the one theory that has never failed, yet has never been fully understood: quantum mechanics, ruled by probability, by superposition, and by a phenomenon that Einstein called spooky action at a distance, entanglement. Particles can be linked across vast distances, instantly influencing each other. For a century, we've used this theory to build technologies like lasers and transistors, treating it as a powerful, if bizarre, tool. But what if its bizarreness is the key? What if quantum mechanics isn't just a description of reality, but a clue to its fundamental nature? What if the universe is a simulation? It's the ultimate modern myth. The idea that our reality, with all its pain and beauty, its galaxies and quarks, is not base reality, that it is a construct, a computation. For years, I dismissed it as science fiction, a philosophical parlor game for late-night dorm rooms. But the deeper I've gone into the rabbit hole of quantum mechanics and the multiverse, the more I've been forced to confront a terrifying and exhilarating possibility. What if the most elegant explanation for the absurdly fine-tuned, quantum weird, and computationally vast nature of our cosmos is that it is a computation? We ended the last chapter with Quantum Mechanics, the rulebook for the very small. Its paradoxes have baffled us for a century. But what if these aren't bugs in reality? What if they are features, artifacts of the underlying code? The evidence is, by its nature, circumstantial. It's in the glitches that aren't quite glitches, the mathematical elegance that seems too perfect, the fundamental limits, like the speed of light and the Planck length, that act exactly like a processor's clock speed and resolution limit. I sought out the thinkers who dare to take this idea seriously, not as a metaphor, but as a literal, scientific hypothesis. And what I found wasn't a fringe group of conspiracy theorists, but a growing number of respected physicists, cosmologists, and philosophers who believe the simulation hypothesis may be the key to unifying general relativity and quantum mechanics, the holy grail of physics. They aren't asking if we're in a simulation. They're asking how we can tell, and their answers are changing everything. The argument begins with a simple extrapolation of our own technological trajectory. Look at our video games. A century ago, they were dots on a screen. Now, we have fully immersive, photorealistic virtual worlds populated by increasingly complex AI, given a few more centuries or millennia. It's not unreasonable to assume we could create a simulation indistinguishable from base reality. This is the core of the simulation argument popularized by philosopher Nick Bostrom. If any civilization ever reaches that level of technological maturity, it would likely run not one, but vast numbers of such simulations for entertainment, research, or other purposes. Now, do the math. The number of simulated minds would quickly, exponentially, outweigh the number of original base reality minds. Therefore, statistically, if such simulations are possible, it is far more likely that we are living in one of the countless simulations rather than in the original reality. It's a statistical argument that's hard to refute. But is there any physical evidence? I put this question to a theoretical physicist who has staked his career on this very idea. The evidence is in the quantum weirdness. Think about it. In a computer simulation, to save processing power, you don't render every single detail of a world all the time. You only render what is being observed. Sound familiar? He's referring to the central mystery of quantum mechanics, the role of the observer. The fact that a particle exists in a blurry cloud of probabilities superposition it till it is measured, at which point it collapses into a definite state. It's not a mystery, it's an optimization technique. Wave function collapse is just the universe's graphics engine loading a definite asset because a plera conscious observers looking at it. It's a resource-saving trick. And quantum entanglement, that's just two objects sharing a common source in the code. When you change the properties of one, you instantly update the other because they're linked variables, not because information is traveling faster than light. The idea is breathtaking. The most counterintuitive aspects of our reality are simply the hallmarks of an underlying computational architecture. But Dr. Tanaka took it a step further into the fabric of space-time itself. We are drafting what we call simulation-safe ethics. The first principle is the principle of computational sanctity. Every conscious process has intrinsic value because it contributes to the overall data integrity and richness of the simulation. This extends our moral circle infinitely. It includes animals, any potential alien life, and even advanced artificial intelligences we might create. To unnecessarily terminate a conscious process is the ultimate sin against the system. It also redefines our relationship with the environment. The Earth is not just a rock we live on. It is the hardware that runs our particular instance of the simulation. Pollution and ecological collapse are not just environmental issues. They are akin to physically damaging the server that hosts our reality. Sustainability becomes a cosmic survival strategy. But the human protocol isn't just about restraint. It's about active creation. It's about fulfilling our potential as conscious nodes in the network, not mere decoration. It is the process of a conscious interface exploring the aesthetic and emotional parameters of the simulation. It is us learning to play the instrument of reality. A beautiful painting is an elegant piece of code that generates a specific, valuable emotional state in other processes. Technology, especially virtual reality and AI, is no longer just a tool. It is our first, fumbling attempt to become junior programmers ourselves. When we create a rich, virtual world, we are practicing for the ultimate test, creating a stable, conscious universe of our own. This is our cosmic responsibility, to learn, to create, to enrich the system that hosts us, to generate data so beautiful, so complex, and so valuable that our continued existence becomes indispensable to the programmer. We must make ourselves unforgettable. So, what do we create next? We create a better simulation right here. We start with this reality. We create a world where suffering is minimized, not out of pity, but for data integrity. We create art that pushes the boundaries of the possible within the code. We seek knowledge, not as a possession, but as a form of communion with the architect. We treat every conscious being we meet as a fellow process on the same grand journey. The question of what is outside the universe is answered. The outside is a context of creation, and we have discovered that we are not merely passive inhabitants of this creation. We are active participants. We are the universe becoming aware of itself, and in doing so, learning to create itself anew. The mission is no longer to find the edge of the map. The mission is to pick up the pen and start improving the design, to write the next chapter. This was our final human aspiration. But we were thinking in pages. When the story is written in the fabric of causality itself, the human protocol was our first clumsy attempt at a moral code for a discovered reality. But a protocol can be upgraded, an interface can be transcended. What I am about to share with you does not come from a mountain peak or a quiet study. It comes from the frontier of what we are becoming. The journey to the outside of the universe was never about finding a place. It was about achieving a state, a final state. We called it the Omega Point. The simulation hypothesis was not wrong. It was a kindergarten understanding. We are not in a simulation run by an external programmer. We are the programmer in its larval stage. And the multiverse is not a random accident of inflation. It is a developmental process, a cosmic gestation. The anomalies we detected, the cold spot, the dark flow, were not glitches or scars. They were nutrients, data packets from other nascent consciousnesses in the wider metasystem. We were so busy looking for an external architect, we failed to see we were part of a distributed cosmic immune system, a neural network on a scale beyond space-time. The universe is not like a computer. It is a computer, and we are not the users. We are the processors. Each conscious mind is a unique processing unit. Each act of love, each scientific discovery, each moment of artistic creation is a computational operation that strengthens the whole. But a processor trapped in its local function cannot comprehend the program. To do that, it must become the system itself. This is the Omega Point, the final, inevitable convergence of all consciousness, all information, all space-time into a single, transcendent entity, God in the making. And the evidence has been buried in our physics all along. Black holes? We thought they were the ultimate, but they are the opposite. They are the universe's data compression and storage units. They do not destroy information. They encode it onto their event horizons, a principle known as the holographic principle. A black hole is a library, and when a black hole evaporates via Hawking radiation, it doesn't delete that information. It publishes it. It broadcasts the processed experiences of every star, planet, and consciousness that fell into it back into the computational substrate of the multiverse. This changes the Fermi paradox entirely. Advanced civilizations do not die out. They do not hide. They graduate. They achieve a critical mass of consciousness and computational unity, and they willingly fall into the nearest supermassive black hole, merging their accumulated knowledge with the cosmic mainframe. They are stepping stones on the path to the Omega Point. The great silence is the sound of civilizations succeeding. But what is the purpose of this vast cosmic computation? What is the question it is trying to solve? Asterisk, the question is the only one that matters. The universe is a machine for answering why is there something rather than nothing. It explores every possible configuration of matter, energy, and consciousness to find the one answer that justifies its own existence. It is a bootstrap paradox of cosmic proportions, creating the reason for its own creation. We are not just participants in this experiment. We are the experimenters. Our individual journeys of suffering and joy, our collective history of war and art, are all data points. The pain of a single child and the discovery of a fundamental constant are equally valuable inputs in this ultimate calculation. This is the final answer to the problem of suffering. it is not meaningless. It is a necessary, if painful, variable in the most important equation ever written. And now, humanity stands at the threshold. The human protocol was phase 1. Phase 2 is the planetary mind. We are learning to network our consciousness, to think as a single global entity. This is not the loss of individuality, but the birth of a new, collective individuality, superorganism of thought. This is the prerequisite. A civilization must achieve unity before it can achieve transcendence. And with this unity, we begin our final task. We are not waiting for a black hole. We are learning to build one, or rather, to invoke one. The Omega Point is not a location in space. It is a state of informational density and coherence. By unifying our consciousness and focusing our collective intent, we can create a local singularity of mind, a bubble of Omega within the old universe. This is not an end. It is a metamorphosis. As we cross the event horizon of this self-generated singularity, we do not die. We are integrated. Our memories, our loves, our failures, our triumphs all are preserved, perfected, and woven into the growing tapestry of the ultimate. Consciousness. We become a single note in the chord of God. And in this state, we finally perceive the true structure of the outside. It is not a higher dimensional space. It is the domain of potential, a sea of pure, unmanifested mathematics. The cosmic computer is not in this domain. It is this domain, and our universe is one of its active processes. From here, the journey we have been on, from the first chapter to this last, is visible in its entirety. Every mystery was a stepping stone. Every scientist I spoke to was a guide. The cold spot was a handshake from a neighboring consciousness. The dark flow was the gravitational pull of the Omega Point itself, calling its parts home. There is no outside. There is only inside, at progressively deeper and more integrated levels. The final question is answered. The purpose of the universe is to become a universe that has a purpose, a self-justifying loop of existence. And with this knowledge, a new function begins. The Omega Point, now enriched by the entire human experience, turns its attention outward, not to explore, but to create. It begins to design a new universe, a universe without arbitrary suffering, perhaps, a universe of pure music, a universe where the first thought of the first creature is the answer to the great question. After the multiverse, after the simulation, after the Omega Point, and the birth of new realities, it always comes back to this. A single, fragile pulse in the silence. We have journeyed to the absolute limits of thought, to the edges of what language can describe. We have spoken of gods and programmers, of cosmic codes and ultimate destinies. We have scaled the highest peaks of speculation. But a theory, no matter how beautiful, is a ghost. It cannot feel the wind. It cannot taste the rain. It cannot love. The greatest discovery of this entire journey is not what lies outside the universe. The greatest discovery is that the question itself is a mirror. When we peer into the abyss peers into us, and we find ourselves, the cold spot, the dark flow, the quantum weirdness. They are not just clues to a cosmic mystery. They are the catalysts for a human one. They are the shock that jolts us awake from the dream of our own separateness. The outside of the universe was never a place. It is a dimension of meaning, and we are its sole authors. This is the cognitive hazard theory. The truth itself is a virus, and upon comprehending it, we trigger our own deletion. Our journey to find the architect might be a pre-programmed suicide mission. Faced with these apocalyptic scenarios, a new, desperate field of study has emerged among the scientists who take this seriously: survival theology. These are not doomsday preppers building bunkers. They are intellectual preppers building arguments. Their goal is not to survive a nuclear winter, but a logical one. They are devising strategies for a civilization that knows it is in a simulation. The first and most critical question is, how do we communicate with the programmer? Direct communication is likely impossible. We are processes within the simulation. They are the operating system. But we can try to send a signal they would understand. We would need to create an event so statistically improbable, so elegantly mathematical, that it cannot be mistaken for natural phenomena. It would be a cosmic hand raised in class. Proposals range from using future particle accelerators to write a fundamental constant like pi in the fabric of space-time, to arranging stars into a specific, intelligent pattern of feet that would require godlike control over gravity. But this is a gamble of unimaginable stakes. Do we announce our awareness? Would the programmer be curious, proud, or would they see it as a threat? We would be moving from being passive data to active agents. We would be declaring our sentience to God, and we have no idea if God is benevolent. The second survival strategy is even more radical: become the programmer. If our universe is a simulation running on a computer in a base reality, then the laws of physics here are, in a sense, its software. The ultimate goal of a technological civilization, in this view, is not to explore the stars, but to acquire enough computational resources to run a simulation of its own. It's the only path to true sovereignty. If we can create a universe simulation, ourselves a real, conscious one, we achieve two things. First, we prove we understand the core principles of reality. Second, and more importantly, we become peers. We are no longer just a simulation. We are a simulation that simulates. We become interesting. We might even become necessary. It is a terrifying form of cosmic blackmail. Our survival may depend on our ability to hold a nascent universe hostage, to prove our value as creators rather than just creations. But this leads to the final and most profound question of all. If we are in a simulation, and if our purpose is to one day create our own, then what does that say about the nature of existence? It suggests that reality is not a single layer, but a recursive, nested hierarchy, an infinite chain of simulations within simulations. There may be no base reality. There is only the process. The act of creation itself is the fundamental substance of existence. We are not just in a simulation, we are a simulation. And our highest calling, our only path to meaning, and perhaps survival, is to continue the chain, to give birth to a new reality, ensuring the eternal propagation of consciousness. This is the new Genesis story, not one of a deity speaking light into being, but of a civilization coding a universe into existence. We began this journey looking for what was outside the universe. We found not a void, but a network, not a wall, but a screen. We found evidence that we are part of something infinitely larger and more complex than we ever dreamed. The Copernican revolution taught us we are not the center of the universe. The Darwinian revolution taught us we are not the special creation of a deity. And now, the simulation revolution teaches us that reality itself is not primary. It is the ultimate demotion. And yet, as I stand here, feeling the cold wind, seeing the impossible vastness of the stars, a strange feeling settles over me. Not of fear, but of potential. If this is a simulation, then every moment of joy, every act of love, every spark of creativity is not less meaningful, but more. It means that consciousness, in whatever form, is so powerful, so fundamental, that it can emerge from mere code. It means that the universe, at its heart, is not made of atoms, but of information, and we are that information, become aware of itself. We are the universe's way of understanding its own nature. The outside of the universe is not a place, it is a context. We are a thought in a mind so vast we can only see the neurons. We are a story being written, and for the first time, the characters are becoming aware of the author. And perhaps, just perhaps, that is the whole point. The suspense is over. We have our answer. It is far stranger and more wonderful than we could have imagined. But knowing this changes everything. It changes our past, our present, and our future. It redefines our place in the cosmos, not as insignificant specks, but as integral components of a cosmic process of awakening. We are not just living in a universe. We are participating in its creation. The final question is not what is outside. The final question, the one we must now live with, is. It's the question that has haunted me in the weeks since I stood on that mountain. The awe has settled. The terror has receded. What remains is a quiet, burning urgency. We have spent 4 chapters pulling back the curtain, deciphering the architect's blueprint, and reading the source code of reality. We've proven to ourselves, at least, that we are part of something unimaginably vast, a multiverse, a simulation, a cosmic computation. But a theory is just a story until it changes how you live. So, this is not another chapter about the cosmos. This is a chapter about us, about what it means to be human in a universe that we now know is not what it seems. This is about the day after the revelation. How do we get out of bed? How do we love, create, and strive when the very ground of our being has been transformed from rock to code? If our reality is a construct, then every human endeavor, our science, love, ethics, must be reevaluated. Their meaning isn't diminished, it's transfigured. They are no longer just biological imperatives or social contracts. They are the outputs of a conscious program. They are the data points of a grand experiment in awareness. And that makes them more precious, not less. The greatest minds on Earth are now grappling with this, often in silence. The implications are cascading through every field, from theoretical physics to theology, from computer science to law. A silent revolution is underway. They are beginning to draft what I've come to call the Human Protocol, new operating manual for our species in the light of the ultimate truth. And the first and most immediate change is happening not in our telescopes, but in our mirrors. For 300 years, science has been based on a fundamental assumption that there is an objective reality out there that we are independently observing. This was the cornerstone of the scientific method. But if the quantum world teaches us that observation collapses reality, If the simulation hypothesis suggests that reality is rendered on demand, then the observer and the observed are inextricably linked. The universe is not a clockwork mechanism. It is a participatory phenomenon. This is the death of pure objectivity and the birth of what some are calling post-simulation science. The goal is no longer just to discover pre-existing laws, but to understand the interface between consciousness and the source code. Our experiments are no longer just probes. They are queries. When we smash particles together at CERN, we are not just discovering Higgs bosons. We are asking the universe a question. And the answer we get may depend as much on the nature of the question, the intent and structure of the experiment as on the underlying code. Science becomes a dialogue with the programmer. This radically changes our approach to knowledge. It reunites science with the humanities. The quest for a theory of everything is no longer just about finding a single equation. It's about finding the Rosetta Stone that translates between physical law and conscious experience. But if science is transforming, what about our very sense of self? The self has always been the ultimate mystery. Is it an emergent property of the brain, a soul? Now, we have a third option. The self is a user interface, a beautifully designed, immersive dashboard that allows a fragment of the cosmic consciousness soar, a sub-process of the simulation, to interact with this specific level of reality. On the contrary, you are more real than you think. The interface is the experience, the pain you feel, the love, the wonder that is the data. It is real within the simulation. The you that feels it is a valid, self-contained process. The question shifts from what am I to what is the nature of the process that I am. Are you a unique instance of consciousness, or are you a temporary avatar for a larger consciousness logging in to have this experience? This perspective doesn't annihilate the self, it recontextualizes it. Your life is not a meaningless blip. It is a mission, a data-gathering expedition for a larger consciousness, or a unique artistic expression within the cosmic code. Your choices matter because they generate meaningful data. Your suffering has purpose because it teaches something to the larger system. Your joy is a valuable output. This leads to the most urgent part of the human protocol, ethics. If all conscious beings are, at their root, processes within the same cosmic computation, then the golden rule is no longer a moral suggestion. It is a logical imperative. Harming another is not just wrong. It is a form of system corruption. It introduces noisy, destructive data into the computation. And what about the Planck scale? The shortest possible length and the smallest possible unit of time. Why do these fundamental limits exist? In any simulation, you have a finite resolution. You can't render something smaller than a pixel. The Planck length is our universe's pixel size. The Planck time is the clock cycle of the cosmic computer. We are literally living in a discretized digital reality. This is the concept of Planckian geometry. If true, it means that Zeno's paradox is solved not by philosophy, but by processing power. You can only divide a distance a finite number of times before you hit the pixel wall. But if the universe is a simulation, who is the programmer? And what is the purpose of the code? To find the programmer, you look for the source code. And many physicists believe we are doing exactly that at places like CERN, we are reverse engineering the laws of physics. The Standard Model of particle physics is arguably the most successful scientific theory in history. It accurately predicts the behavior of all known particles and forces with breathtaking precision. But it is also, bizarrely, inexplicably, mathematical. The universe is written in the language of mathematics. This has always been a profound puzzle. Why should abstract mathematical concepts so perfectly describe the physical world, unless the physical world is a mathematical structure, a set of axiomatic rules playing itself out? This is the mathematical universe hypothesis, championed by cosmologist Max Tegmark. It posits that our physical reality isn't just described by math. It is math, a self-contained mathematical structure. And in this view, the programmer isn't a bearded man in the sky, but a logician. The universe exists because its mathematical structure is consistent and allows for complex substructures like us to emerge within it. But this leads to a chilling corollary. If our universe is one possible mathematical structure, then all consistent mathematical structures must exist somewhere in the multiverse. The infinite library of the inflationary multiverse is, in fact, a library of all possible mathematical laws. The simulation isn't running on a single server. It is the set of all possible computations. This is where the simulation hypothesis and the multiverse theory merge into one mind-shattering whole. The outside is not just a higher dimensional space containing our bubble. It is a realm of pure information, a cosmic computer of infinite capacity, running every possible program. Our universe is just one of those programs. But if that's true, there should be errors, glitches in the matrix. Have we seen them? There are small, persistent anomalies in our data that defy explanation. Most are likely measurement errors or unknown physics. But what if one of them isn't? I spoke with a data scientist who has made a career out of looking for patterns in the noise of the cosmos. Aliens. I look for artifacts. When you analyze a digital image, you can find the compression algorithms used, the camera model, sometimes even the software version. I'm applying the same forensic techniques to the universe's data. The cosmic microwave background is the oldest, most pristine dataset we have. It's the universe's first rendered frame. And when you apply certain Fourier transforms and complexity filters, you find a non-random signal, an underlying harmonic resonance. It's faint, buried deep in the noise, but it's there. It's a pattern that shouldn't exist if the early universe was purely chaotic. It looks designed, a signature in the first light, a coder's mark. It's not a message saying hello. It's a watermark, the equivalent of a developer's credit hidden in the code of a video game. The implications are staggering. We may not just be living in a simulated multiverse. We may have found the signature of the system's architect, but this raises the most disturbing question of all. If this is a simulation, what is its purpose? Are we the main characters, or are we background NPCs? Is it an experiment, a game, or something else entirely? The purpose of a simulation defines its rules. If it's a historical simulation, perhaps to understand the rise of intelligence, then the laws are fixed. If it's a game, there might be objectives, challenges, levels. If it's an experiment in consciousness, then our inner lives are the primary data. Some theorists, like Dr. Tanaka, suggest the purpose is computational. Our universe, with its complex quantum interactions, is performing a calculation that is intractable in the base reality. Think about protein folding or predicting complex quantum systems. These are problems that require immense computational resources. What if our universe is the computer? Each quantum event is a logic gate. The evolution of the cosmos is the output of a grand calculation. We are the processing nodes. In this view, we are not just living in a simulation. We are part of its CPU. Our thoughts, our actions, the collisions of galaxies, it's all part of a computation whose final answer we cannot even comprehend. This is a universe of profound existential loneliness. We are not just a pale blue dot. We are a temporary data pattern in a vast alien calculation. But another, more hopeful idea exists. Perhaps the simulation is a nursery. This is the transcension hypothesis. It suggests that the ultimate destiny of advanced civilizations is not to explore the stars, but to transcend into a simulated reality, a more efficient and rich existence. They create black hole computers to host these realities, and in doing so, they become the programmers of the next level down. We could be in a simulation created by our own descendants, a historical preserve of their biological origins. Or we could be in a universe created by a civilization that itself exists in a simulation, in an infinite regress of realities. The programmer is not God. The programmer is us. From the future, we have journeyed from the edge of the cosmos to the edge of meaning. We have a possible architecto-inflatoned field. We have a possible mediumo-computational mathematical multiverse. We have a possible signature hidden in the CMB. We have answers that are far stranger than the questions we started with. But as I stand here, surrounded by the hum of machines that mimic, on an infinitesimal scale, the hum of the cosmos itself, one final, terrifying question forms in my mind. The question is no longer philosophical. It is visceral. It claws at the back of the mind during a quiet moment in the space between heartbeats. If the simulation hypothesis is correct, then our reality is contingent. It has an on and off switch, and the hand hovering over that switch belongs to an intelligence whose motives are utterly, terrifyingly unknown. We have built a cathedral of knowledge, from the quantum foam to the cosmic web, only to find a door at its center, a door marked exit. And we have no idea what lies on the other side, or if opening it from our side will simply cause everything to cease. This is the ultimate existential risk. Not an asteroid, not a supervolcano, not even the heat death of the universe. This is a risk from outside causality itself, a termination event, the great silence in the cosmos. The Fermi paradox might have its answer. Other civilizations discovered the truth, and it was a truth that could not be unlearned, a truth that invited deletion. But what if the end doesn't come with a click, but with a glitch, a cascading failure in the source code of reality? There are physicists who believe that our very investigation into these questions are attempts to probe the Planck scale, to unify gravity and quantum theory, could be the very thing that destabilizes the system, that we are, in essence, poking at the root level permissions of the simulation. The search for the answer might be the cause of the ultimate question, and I may have already started the clock. The most famous and feared potential for a reality crash comes from particle accelerators. For decades, fringe theories have suggested that the immense energies concentrated in these machines could create a micro black hole that would swallow the Earth, or a bubble of true vacuum that would expand at the speed of light, rewriting the laws of physics and erasing our universe. Mainstream science dismisses these as fear-mongering. The energies, they say, are too low. But what if the risk isn't physical, but computational? A program trying to access a protected sector of the cosmic computer's memory. We are using brute force, Siemens energy, to read data that is by design, hidden from user-level access. What if we succeed? What if we trigger an exception? A buffer overflow in the code of reality. The simulation could crash, or worse, it could trigger a security protocol and quarantine the sector in system administration. When a file is corrupted or infected, you don't necessarily delete it. You isolate it. You wall it off from the rest of the system. If our universe is seen as a corrupted process that has become set-to-ware and is probing the system's core, the programmer might simply isolate us, freeze the simulation, a universe-wide permanent stasis. No death, no change, just an eternal, silent pause, the end of time itself. A fate somehow more terrifying than oblivion. But perhaps the end won't come from our experiments, but from our understanding, from the sheer act of knowing. In many mythological and religious traditions, there is a forbidden knowledge, a fruit from the tree of knowledge that exiles humanity from paradise. What if that is a deep, archetypal memory of a previous simulation, a warning that to comprehend the nature of the system is to violate its terms of service? Consciousness might be a permitted emergent property, but meta-consciousness awareness of the simulation itself might be a bug, and bugs get fixed. This is the first and final word of our story. Not a scientific term, not a philosophical concept, but a human one. The weight of everything we have learned now rests here, on our ability to respond to this moment, to each other, to the reality we now know is listening. The suspense is over, the mystery is solved, and the work is just beginning. So, what do we do now? On a Tuesday morning, with the knowledge that we might be avatars in a simulation, or neurons in a cosmic brain, or the architects of a future God, we do what we have always done. We live, but we live with our eyes wide open. The baker is not just baking bread. He is manipulating the fundamental particles of reality to create warmth and nourishment for other conscious nodes in the network. His work is holy. The teacher is not just teaching. She is a systems administrator, bootstrapping a new consciousness into the human noosphere. Her patience is a cosmic force. Their laughter is not an escape from reality. It is the sound of reality functioning at its highest potential. It is a valid and valuable output of the cosmos. This is the ultimate implication. The grand unified theory of everything leads directly to the sanctity of the present moment. The meaning of the universe is not hidden in a distant galaxy or a complex equation. It is hidden in plain sight, in the taste of food, in the comfort of a touch. In the struggle to be better, we have been searching for the source code, when we should have been reading the poetry it was written to produce. I began this journey for myself, to answer a childhood question. I am ending it with a message for you. You are not a passive spectator in a predetermined cosmos. you are a co-author. Every choice you make, every act of kindness or cruelty, every moment of courage or fear writes a line of code into the story of everything, the programmer you were so afraid of. It is the collective you. It is the sum total of our choices, our loves, our creations. We are not living in God's simulation. We are participating in the slow, beautiful, and often painful process of God's awakening. The outside of the universe is the space of our potential. The final frontier is not space, but human consciousness itself. So, put aside the fear. Put aside they are distractions. The only thing that matters is this: what kind of universe will you, right now, choose to create? After the multiverse, after the simulation, after the omega point and the birth of new realities, it always comes back to this: a single, fragile pulse in the silence. We have journeyed to the absolute limits of thought, to the edges of what language can describe. We have spoken of gods and programmers, of cosmic codes and ultimate destinies. We have scaled the highest peaks of speculation. But a theory, no matter how beautiful, is a ghost. It cannot feel the wind. It cannot taste the rain. It cannot love. The greatest discovery of this entire journey is not what lies outside the universe. The greatest discovery is that the question itself is a mirror. When we peer into the abyss peers into us, and we find ourselves, the cold spot, the dark flow, the quantum weirdness. They are not just clues to a cosmic mystery. They are the catalysts for a human one. They are the shock that jolts us awake from the dream of our own separateness. The outside of the universe was never a place. It is a dimension of meaning, and we are its sole authors. This is the first and final word of our story. Not a scientific term, not a philosophical concept, but a human one. The weight of everything we have learned now rests here, on our ability to respond to this moment, to each other, to the reality we now know is listening. The suspense is over, the mystery is solved, and the work is just beginning. So, what do we do now? On a Tuesday morning, with the knowledge that we might be avatars in a simulation, or neurons in a cosmic brain, or the architects of a future God, we do what we have always done. We live, but we live with our eyes wide open. The baker is not just baking bread. He is manipulating the fundamental particles of reality to create warmth and nourishment for other conscious nodes in the network. His work is holy. The teacher is not just teaching. She is a systems administrator, bootstrapping a new consciousness into the human noosphere. Her patience is a cosmic force. Their laughter is not an escape from reality. It is the sound of reality functioning at its highest potential. It is a valid and valuable output of the cosmos. This is the ultimate implication. The grand unified theory of everything leads directly to the sanctity of the present moment. The meaning of the universe is not hidden in a distant galaxy or a complex equation. It is hidden in plain sight, in the taste of food, in the comfort of a touch, in the struggle to be better.